Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first story is titled, I Can't Be Part of the Family Until I Live by Your Rules. I'll make my own rules. 6 years ago I decided to rip all the carpet out of my house and tile the entire house. It took a bit of planning and effort, but I was able to do all the work myself, with assistance from a few friends and my mum. At the end of the process, Mum and I had an argument that ended with her gaslighting me and me kicking her out of my house. She decided the best course of action was to complain to the entire family about what a horrible child I was. Keep in mind, I was 26 at the time and owned my home, and how I was disrespectful I was, and ungrateful I was not, and I paid her in second-hand clothing. She borrowed my good dress, held it hostage, and I never got it back. My grandpa called me and told me that I wasn't welcome at any family functions until I apologized and I got rid of all my cats. 2 is an acceptable number of cats, he tells me. I looked at my little family of 8 beautiful, happy little cats. Cue malicious compliance. That's fine, I said. I'll see you when I see you. I didn't turn up for Christmas. They assumed I went to visit my dad's side of the family. I didn't turn up for Mother's Day, Easter, birthdays, Father's Day. Another Christmas passed. I rescued another half-dead gutter kitten. My family grew. My extended family were very confused by my absence. After 3 full years my aunt finally decided to come and visit me to find out my side of the story. I explained my side, how I'd been upset and said things I shouldn't, how Mum lied, and how Grandpa had told me I couldn't be part of the family until I had a reasonable number of cats. Bless her, she tried to sort it out, but Grandpa stood firm and so did I. Eventually, after almost 5 years, he was forced to accept that the cats weren't going anywhere, and now I'm allowed to attend family gatherings again. I think it had something to do with my aunt falling in love with and adopting third cat, meaning his rule would have also applied to his daughter. Don't mess with the crazy cat lady. She's crazy. The next story is titled, The Time the Agency Got a Request for a Man. A few years back I worked in a factory through an agency. A worker quit and I offered to take his station until a proper replacement could be found and trained. This job involved lifting 50 pounds equipment over your head several times a day, and moving heavy machinery around. I was a small female, a bit stronger now, so I had to get a coworker to help me sometimes. It was doable for this short period. Anyway, the factory owner asked the agency for a man, because it's a lot of heavy lifting and that's a man's job. He told the agency to just give whichever guy they picked a 6-month contract. The agency sent a 55-year-old man with back issues who wasn't allowed to lift more than 20 pounds. For anyone wondering, it was definitely intentional. The woman who ran the agency was a big feminist and promoter of equal opportunities. The next story is titled, How I Used to Maliciously Comply on the Regular. I was in my mid-20s at the time and worked specifically in said furniture department. So my days were spent lifting the flat-packed furniture boxes, and shifting around the display furniture to suit the whims of the corporate idiots who constantly changed their mind on how stuff should be displayed. I was also just a generally very active person who was quite fit. And 6 feet tall. But I am also, gasp, a woman. So there was at least one guy a week, who on seeing me walk out from the storeroom with their item, would immediately say, "Oh, I can take it from here." And here is how it would go down every time. Me, "No, that's okay sir. I'll take it up to the counter for you and then out to you car so you can load it." Guy who was half the time shorter than me, "Nah. I can do it." Me, "Well, it's actually quite heavy sir. And management prefers we do it for you. Don't worry, I'm happy to help and this is my job." Guy, "Well, if it's heavy you should let me take it off your hands." Me, "Like I said sir, this is my job. So I do this all day. And this box really is much heavier than it looks. It's fine. Let's just go up to the counter." Keep in mind I'm saying all this with a cheery smile whilst on the inside I'm thinking, this box is ducking heavy and standing here arguing with you is not making it any ducking lighter. We could have been at the counter by now, you ducktard. But I grew up helping out my mother in her store, so sounding pleasant and keeping up the cheery facade while mentally cursing out a customer is something I excel at. Guy, just give me the box. Me, are you really sure? Like I said, sir, it's much heavier than it looks. Guy, well, if you can lift it, so can I. Me, okay then, sir. At which point I would hand off the box and try not to laugh, as the guy would inevitably struggle, with many curse words under their breath. Half the time they would either drop or Nestle drop it within 15 seconds. I would always then let them take it to the counter, and after they were done paying, would offer once again to help them get it out to their car. Some would take me up on it. Most let their pride get in their way and would struggle to carry it out to the parking lot whilst I giggled away inside. And here endeth my tale of how I would let the big strong men take the heavy box off my hands. The next story is titled, She Asked for a Blanket So I Gave Her One. I had some friends over, one, male, with his wife, the other three, female. One of the female, we'll call Jane, had a baby 2 months ago, and this is the first time that we have seen her. She was away at family's when she had her baby, so this was a small unplanned baby shower for her. After an hour or so, her baby got fussy and she started breastfeeding her baby. One of the friends started looking upset and asked, "Don't you think you should cover up, especially since there is a man here?" We all just kind of looked at her. My male friend said it's okay, his wife breastfeeds. And his wife nods her head. Well, this upset friend and looked towards me and said to get a blanket. So I got her one and she said no, it's to cover up with. So I did as she asked and opened up the blanket, all the while all the other people were giving me a strange look, and I covered friend's head and sat back down. Friend got mad and took it off and said not that Jane needs to cover. I said what for? Friend gets up and tries to put the blanket on Jane. I finally had enough and said if she didn't like seeing someone breastfeed, then she can either look away or leave. Yeah, she got mad, saying how I am choosing Jane over her and that she known me longer. I told her that you should known by now that I don't believe in covering up regardless of where you are at, and that it's my house. I also told her that she knows what a pain it is trying cover up a breast in a screaming wiggle baby's mouth, so have a nice day. So yeah, she is mad at me, but the rest of us had a good time visiting. The next story is titled, Congratulations, You Suck as a Business Owner. Enjoy the consequences. So one of the partners of the business I work for left under bad terms of his own making. He was massively underqualified for the position he was in, and spent a lot of time doing menial office tasks because he wasn't up for the real business management responsibilities. After he left, I got promoted from being an accountant to being the controller because I had basically demonstrated I could keep the business moving the entire time he was messing around. No hard feelings from me though. I wasn't angry at the guy, and I got a nice pay bump after he left. His remaining partners reformed the business under a new LLC and carried on without him. He didn't reform under a new LLC, so he's been using that LLC to do business. I got a check from the IRS for something like $50. I sent a message to the partners, including him, because it was made out to the old company, and he demanded that since he was still using the old LLC, it belonged to him. But whatever, can I scan you an image of the check? I'm pretty busy. Nope, he wants ME to send his mail to him certified. I'm ducking busy and he's clearly teabagging me by text just to show he was still the boss. Cue malicious compliance. I held onto the check for like 4 weeks or so because I couldn't leave the office in time to get to the post office. He was livid about the delay. It's not my job, but I was happy to do it and eat his abuse because I also had to send him his reminders to pay the registration fees to the state. He did say he wanted me to send his mail to him certified, so I assumed he meant everything. They came to me because he never bothered to update the company's mailing address. So I sent him his $50 check along with the renewal reminder for $150, and the dingleberry didn't bother renewing when he received, so with penalties it probably came out to be $300. The fun part is that his former partners were going to just cut a check for the renewal on his behalf before he started acting like a dick. The next story is titled, Group in Shared Lab Doesn't Want to Share. Some of my work requires that I use a shared lab. The materials we use require certain safety and cleanliness standards, and because it's a shared space, my group doesn't have full control over the things that happen there. My coworkers and I do our best to be responsible even when others aren't. This includes doing things like replacing consumables, autoclaving trash, cleaning up workspaces, etc. We definitely do more than our fair share of work, but we put up with it so that we stay safe and our experiments don't get contaminated, and also to avoid fines, audits, but I feel obligated to mention safety first. The malicious compliance comes in when one group decided that they don't want to share anything in this shared lab space. They started to label everything with Dr. Grumpy's lab only, including common use items like disinfectant bottles and waste bins. Okay, fine. Our equipment went into locked drawers, and we stopped doing anything helpful to maintain their stuff. Within 1 week their group got cited for misusing the autoclave and for mishandling samples. I also noticed today that they had a new spray bottle of ethanol sitting next to 2 empty ones on their bench. Apparently 70% is too hard to mix from a stock bottle. In the end, I think I'm glad they pulled this move. We get to do less work and we don't have to worry about taking any blame for it. The next story is titled Holiday Commandments. The protagonist in this short tale, we will call her Chess Meister, is one of the softest, kindest, unbelievably amazing people anyone will know. To not make too fine a point on it, she is so good-hearted, she could not even cause harm to a dead fly. Then we have our antagonist, as every story does. We will call him Irritable Twerp, again a variety of meanings but none of them nice, plus it works well with the clown aspect of his personality. So as with most stories, we start with the preface, or background so to speak. Now Chess Meister and Irritable Twerp work together, though Irritable Twerp is that colleague. He is full of himself, thinks he is better than everyone else and talks to people super condescendingly. An actual quote from Chess Meister. He is really self-involved and selfish. He is the colleague who wants to discuss working on Sundays when everyone else wants to rest and have a day to themselves. In short, he is very very annoying. You could say hated, but Chess Meister doesn't like the idea of hatred. Yes, she really is that good. Now that we are done with the background, let's move back, or should I say forward, to the incident. Irritable Twerp went away on vacation, but being the attention-seeking, micromanaging. I'm going to go with person here. Person here's, every couple of hours he decided to contact colleagues in the work group and command, bet my title makes sense now. Them to do this task or that task. Not only was this annoying for the very obvious reason that he was not their manager, but also that he was on vacation and making demands as if people cannot get on with work without his amazing presence. This is where it gets fun. As we know, or can assume from my description, Chess Meister continues to work hard, persist with her tasks and try to ignore these really annoying holiday commandments. But there is a limit to everyone's patience, and though Chess Meister's is a mile further than anyone else, Irritable Twerp managed to reach it and fly past it. Enough was enough. Now Chess Meister is an amazing person and very kind, but that does not mean she doesn't have the ability to punish others. She is, to paraphrase a saying, a warrior who prefers to be in the garden, not a gardener in the midst of war. And this was now war, but of the mind, because Chess Meister is still peace-loving, and Chess Meister could quite easily stand for clever mind. It doesn't though. Chess Meister decided to call him on his crap, quite literally. Every time Irritable Twerp decided to send his commandments, Chess Meister called him up. He wouldn't pick up because, obviously he was on vacation. He loved making demands but not the contact and effort that came with it. Chess Meister messaged him, asking him to call so that she can explain what has been done or what the status is on whatever he has commanded. She did this 3 times until he stopped messaging and making demands. Thus ends our story, with the war over and Chess Meister winning, enjoying the moment, and then back to her work. Because no matter how amazing her win, she always continues with her day as normal, like her humble character dictates. The next story is titled, Kick Me Out of Your Home for Stupid Reasons? I'll take my family with me. I posted this on Petty Revenge, and it got around 400 upvotes before being archived. Then I posted it on Pro Revenge and it got around 700 upvotes before getting removed for not being pro revenge. I still think it is, but whatever. It may fit best here anyway. I was born to young parents. My dad was 22 and my mum was 20. My dad walked out on us very shortly after my birth and it was just me and my mum. When I was 7, we got a kitten. When I was 15, she met this guy and he very quickly invited us into his home. We never had much money, and lived in the hood while he was the type of guy who would buy a $5,000 TV just because he felt like it. He had a dog and was allergic to cats, so my mum made me give up my cat to one of her dear friends to move there. He worked very hard to make us feel at home and I was very happy despite being a little disappointed about giving up my best friend in the world. He got us a new dog that was supposed to be my dog, but he became his anyway. They were trying to have a baby for a while and he finally got her knocked up. Then he became awful. He came up with all these stupid reasons on why I was a bad kid even though I was a fairly good, and said if my mum didn't figure out a way to get me out of his house he was gonna kick us both out and take the baby when it was born. And he kept saying if I did stay he was kicking down my door and screaming at me and making me do hard labor. My mum ended up having to send me to live with my crappy deadbeat dad, who was also awful but was also the lesser of two evils to my stepdad. I lived in a big city with a very nice zoo I had been volunteering at since I was 12, and my mum came to pick me up and drive me there and back on my work days. When I turned 16 I was deemed too old to be a youth volunteer anymore and was offered a job there but had to decline. My baby brother was also born that year. Luckily I got a job at the local veterinarian's office. When I was 18 and graduated high school, I was able to go back to my city, get a studio apartment, get a job at the zoo I had been a youth volunteer for, get my cat back, go to college, university there, and get my bachelor's at the age of 22 thanks to the money I saved up along with financial support from my mum. I then landed my dream job as a zoologist for the zoo I already had a part-time job at. I soon moved out of my apartment and was able to get a house in the nice part of town with my cat and was in a fairly good place financially. My mum resented my stepdad by then because of all the stuff he had done, and I offered to get her a lawyer for the custody battle and come to my place. She said she didn't want to have to dump him off there alone every other weekend while he was still a small child. I asked her how old she wanted him to be before she would consider that. She said 10. 4 years later, when I was 26, he was 10. So everything came into fruition. She left him and moved into my place, and I paid thousands of dollars for a top-notch lawyer. The judge ruled she got to claim him on taxes, and he would only visit my now ex-stepdad every other weekend. She got back on her feet and moved out of my place, and I am now 30, she is now 50, my brother is now 14, my ex-stepdad is now 49 and still probably rages himself to sleep every night, and my cat is now 23 and is still thriving. I couldn't be happier with my life now. The next story is titled, Freshman Year. I didn't say a single word for the entire semester. During my freshman year of high school I had a world geography class which I had some friends in, and therefore I was pretty vocal, maybe more than I should have, I admit. It was about halfway through the school year when my teacher got on my case about talking too much and told me that if I said another word that I would be sent to the principal's office. Now I was in a class with all of my friends and some girls I liked, so naturally I wanted to show off. So I didn't say a single word for the rest of that class. After the class everyone thought it was somewhat funny, so I didn't say anything the next class. Then I got the idea that I wouldn't say a word in that class for the rest of the year. This teacher was brand new, his first year teaching, so he did not know how to handle such a thing. Every day he would call attendance messing with me because I didn't say anything, or he would call on me for questions but I didn't say a word. The teacher was a cool guy and never got really mad, but he never told anyone to not say another word. I had a notebook that I would write questions in and my grades never suffered. Looking back I was being really extra and immature, but it makes me laugh every time I think about it. The next story is titled, Wanna Be Sarcastic About a Gift? I Got You. So my nephew turned 17 this year. I usually go all out for his birthdays cause ya know I'm that extra of an aunt. Anyways, like I said, he is 17 and indecisive. I asked him what he wanted for his birthday and he said a supreme pizza. I laughed. I asked again a few more times. Maybe a new keyboard? New game controller? Whatever, but he didn't budge and kept insisting on getting a supreme pizza for his birthday. So fine. He wants a supreme pizza. He'll get it. I told my boyfriend and brother about what happened and my plan. They loved the idea. Fast forward to today, day of the party. After dinner and cake it was time for presents. My BF and I carry in 17 frozen supreme pizzas. One for every year I have loved him. My nephew's eyes went wide. My brother then walks in with a cup frozen to the brim with cash at the bottom. Nothing like a cold drink to go with your pizza, am I right? We all had a good laugh. I love my petty sarcastic family. The next story is titled, I Can't Stay to Have Dinner with My Friends. Okay, I guess I'll walk home 14 kilometers and get you in trouble. I did this when I was 6 or 7 years old. I used to live in a very rural area in South America and went to a rural school 14 kilometers away from town. We used to be brought to school by a school van, but the lady who should look for us at the end of the shift will always be late. This school has a dining plan for the poor kids who didn't have their parents home for there to cook for them, or just because to ensure them food. Most of my friends used to stay and eat this delicious rustic rural food, while we, the kids from town, will stay outside waiting for the van lady to come and get us totally hungry and tortured by the smells and the scene. Me, tired of this, decided that I would sit down in the table with my friends. I did it for a week or so and always got away with it and went in the van to my house. Until one day the principal got me in fragante, and started to told me off that I couldn't eat, and in her words, "Go home, you can't stay here." So I took her word. I grabbed my backpack, went out, hid in some woods, waited for the van lady to went away, and when everything was clear started walking to the route and go home. I didn't care for how much time would it take me, for me was an adventure and I was following my principal words. An hour into the hike a police patrol found me in the middle of a valley with no people around, with my little backpack in the South Argentinian spring. "Hey, what are you doing alone in the middle of nowhere? What's your name?" And they brought me home. I always felt so proud of doing this and wanted to share. My principal didn't got into real trouble, and neither the van lady, because my mum agreed that it was shared fault between the principal and the van lady. So well, it was fun. I showed my principal that I could and I would get them into trouble, but even after that I didn't got what I wanted, eat at the school before going home. Anyway, thanks for reading. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.